So hello everyone, I'm Diana. I'm here to present you GlycoDiagnostic and our first product, a new diagnostic test for stomach cancer. We are here to address a major problem worldwide that we are all familiar with, which are the nearly 1 million cases of stomach cancer diagnosed every year. And most of these cases are diagnosed in late stages, which means that 70% of these patients will die from the disease. In fact, the survival rate at stage 4 is only 4%. But if these cancers will be detected early, the survival will highly increase for over 80%. So why isn't this diagnosis being done earlier? Because stomach cancer patients, they show symptoms that are common with many other diseases like reflux, pain, bleeding. And currently, there is only one procedure to follow after these symptoms show, which is going through a physical examination, endoscopy, and biopsy, which is highly expensive and highly invasive, as you can see by the pictures. So you can see why this is not the first thing to be done. In fact, the feedback we got from oncologists and many other specialists is that there's a huge need for early and non-invasive diagnostic tools that can be used as screening for stomach cancer. So how can you detect stomach cancer? The best way to do it would be to detect biomarkers. And what are these? These are molecules that are present only in cancer conditions and never in normal conditions. So take a normal person. It displays a series of different proteins in the blood. Take a blue protein and a red protein. They also present sugars attached to these proteins. And in normal conditions, the blue sugar is attached to the blue protein, the red sugar to the red protein. In cancer, however, these particular combinations of proteins and sugars start to change. And this is what we found, like here, where a red sugar is now attached to a blue protein, that this is our new biomarker. And how can you detect proteins and sugars using antibodies? Antibodies are molecules that bind to these structures, and they light up once they bind. But the problem is with the current antibodies used in diagnosis is that they can only bind to these structures, one of these structures at a time. Take a red sugar. So they're able to detect the structure in cancer, but they're also in normal conditions, which leads to incorrect diagnosis due to false positives. And this is where GlycoDiagnostic comes to save the day. We developed these super antibodies that are able to bind both protein and sugar at the same time. So they can bind to this unique structure I mentioned before. And this will lead to highly specific detection and virtually no false positives. In the end, we'll deliver a diagnostic kit with all the reagents necessary, and they can be easily implemented in any of the diagnostic facilities with the current available basic equipment. And this will basically consist of a 96-well plate. On each well, they'll be coated with our antibodies, and it will be placed with each sample of blood. And upon binding or not of our antibodies to our biomarker, we'll have a highly reliable cancer, no cancer result. We are aware of players in the market, players that will be in future in the market, like CancerSeek and Grail. But these are based in different technologies like DNA mutations. And DNA mutations are a bit harder to detect, more complex, more expensive. So we can still place our technology as both more specific and more efficient for early detection. Stomach cancer diagnostic market will be $350 billion by 2020. So based on the risk populations of most affected countries and on proxy values of similar tests, we estimate the GlycoDiagnostic market to be $28.5 billion. Besides that, when we implement our test, GlycoDiagnostic, as a screening strategy, we'll reduce 40% of the unnecessary endoscopies done, which means 130 billion in savings. To reach this market, this is our roadmap. We just finished our proof of concept. We are working on the patents for our antibodies. And with an investment of 7.5 million, we'll be able to do the preclinical and clinical studies, plus all the regulatory pathway, and entering the market by 2022. 7 years after entering the market, we'll reach break-even, and by 2030, we estimate 400 million in revenues. To make all this happen, we have a team with more than 30 years cumulative experience in cancer biomarkers, and stomach cancer biomarkers, plus the technology management and transfer of our MBA student and our mentor, and also all our partners and oncology centers and hospital centers. In the end, we really want to deliver the very first non-invasive diagnostic tool for stomach cancer that can be applied in screening strategies for populations and save lives. And we're also now ready to tackle other types of cancer, like prostate cancer, and improve and upgrade their current diagnostic tests. So in the end, we'll make other organs just as happy as this stomach over here. So thank you.